Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers Report, we have the latest on assistant general manager Adam Peters, who's really a sought-after general manager candidate during this offseason cycle. A team in the NFL is also requested to interview Niners defensive coordinator Steve Wilks for their head coaching position. And could two Niners assistants get poached because they're drawing offensive coordinator interest because of the influence from Kyle Shanahan? Before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Do you want Niners videos every day? This is your go-to spot. And a programming alert, we're going to be live on Thursday talking Niners, and then live on Sunday. Yes, the Niners have a first-round bye, but we're going to go live for Cowboys-Packers right here on the show. So make sure you hit that sub button. By the way, I know the show looks and feels a little bit different. Still in Houston covering the College Football National Championship. Michigan able to get the victory last night over Washington. I don't know about you, but it was great to see Jim Harbaugh get the dub. I also predicted that Michigan was going to win, so it's always good to be right. Are you happy that Harbaugh got the natty with the Wolverines? You can share your thoughts with me down below in the comments section, but we'll be back in the Chat Sports studios tomorrow. Here is the latest on Niners assistant general manager Adam Peters. On yesterday's show, we talked about how the Washington Commanders were going to interview him, or at least submitted a request to interview him. That interview is going to be official, and it's actually happening today on Tuesday. Niners assistant general manager Adam Peters is going to interview for the Commanders' head of football ops job. It's going to take place in Miami, and there are a couple of other teams who are also interested in a guy who's been really critical to being able to pluck, find, identify, and develop a lot of talent through the NFL draft for San Francisco. Those other teams on top of the Washington Commanders, Las Vegas Raiders, and the Los Angeles Chargers. They have also requested permission to interview Peters for their vacant general manager jobs. There aren't set interviews as of this recording at about 2:22 p.m. Eastern Time. Right now, the only confirmed interview is with the Washington Commanders. So keep an eye out for that. We'll, of course, give you updates right here on the show. With Washington specifically, Peters is going to meet with new owner Joshua Harris, who took over for the fraud Dan Snyder. And then as part of those conversations, former Warriors general manager Bob Myers, who has been hired as a consultant for the Commanders, and Rick Spielman, the former general manager for the Minnesota Vikings, they're going to be a part of those conversations as well. All of this pretty significant in that Peters is one of the most sought-after general manager names, and previously he has turned down interviews with teams like the Tennessee Titans, Arizona Cardinals last year, the Houston Texans, New York Giants showed interest in him, and the New York Giants actually didn't hire him a couple of off seasons ago when he interviewed with that organization. And Adam Peters is a NorCal guy. He really has a great job with San Francisco. He's helped lead the Niners on so much recent success since being hired by John Lynch all the way back in 2017, and the resume is really impressive, and this is why other teams look at him as a viable candidate to lead their front office. He's in his 21st season in the NFL, third as the Niners' assistant general manager. Previously, Peters spent 4 years as vice president of player personnel for San Francisco, joined the Niners after spending 8 seasons with the Denver Broncos from 2009 to 2016. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, they're hired by the Yorks, and then Adam Peters was a part of that front office as well, and he's kind of been John Lynch's right-hand man. On yesterday's show, we've talked about all the players since 2017 that this front office has drafted. Peters has had his fingerprints on all of that. In 2016, named the Broncos Director of College Scouting after spending 2 seasons as the team's Assistant Director of College Scouting, and then he spent 3 years as a National Scout after originally joining the Broncos as a Regional Scout in 2009. So this has been a long process for Adam Peters. You know, he started off at the low rung of the ladder. He's been able to climb his way up. Life is about upward mobility, especially in the NFL, and he's a good story of that. As a member of Denver's personnel department, helped the team acquire 27 players through the draft and free agency that were huge members of that Super Bowl 50 championship roster when Peyton Manning was at the tail end of his career and they took down the Seattle Seahawks. Type F Seattle in the chat if you hate that squad. And then with San Francisco, he's been part of this front office, rebuilding the Niners and then helping lead them to 3 NFC championship games over the last 4 years. And hopefully this year, the 2023 campaign culminates with the Super Bowl here in the 2024 calendar year. I mentioned that he was a NorCal guy. That's probably part of the reason why he's been content with remaining with this organization. He grew up in Cupertino, California, and attended Monte Vista High School. And keep in mind here, too, that the Niners promoted John Lynch earlier this year in title to president of football operations. That happened in September. He got a contract extension. Kyle Shanahan got a contract extension as well. So technically, San Francisco could give Adam Peters the general manager title with the team that he's been with since 2017, if that could help in retaining him. But for me, I kind of look at it from Peters' standpoint. He's still not going to be the guy who's calling the shots. It's still going to be John Lynch. And then Kyle Shanahan obviously has roster control, too, that he's been able to earn. And I think for Peters, at some point, and it's become clear to me, this is why he's interviewing with other teams, that he wants to run his own front office. He wants his own team, and he is certainly capable of doing that. And I think that he's arguably the best general manager candidate out there for teams looking for one, and this would be a loss for San Francisco. A lot more to get to here on the show. First, though, I want to hear from you down in the comments section. I'm in Houston, Texas at the College Football Playoff Media Hotel. We went to the game last night. It was just a terrific atmosphere. The passion, intensity, pageantry of college football really is unmatched. But where are you watching the show from? I take a look at the analytics all the time, and I know that people tune in and tap in to the Niners Report from all across the globe. More to get to, but first, our sponsor for today's show is Game Time. Make sure you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time and download the app, create an account. All of this is free, by the way. And if you use the code NinersChat, you get $20 off your ticket purchase. You can check them out. We'll put that link down below in the comments section as well as in the description of this video. We've been so busy covering the lead up to the national championship, and then we were at the game. We didn't really buy tickets until the last minute. What's great about the Game Time app is that you're guaranteed to get the lowest price at the final moment, and prices drop as the event gets closer. So we were able to sit in the 100 level behind one of the end zones for a really, really good price with the Game Time app. And we got $20 off our purchase by using that code NinersChat. There was a group of us that went to the game, and we celebrated after for a really, really long time because Boss Man James, Boss Man Brett, and producer Jack Lauderay, all a part of the Michigan Football Report. And then Brett and James also big Michigan fans, and Brett went to Michigan. So we were there, and we had a night, as you can see with my face, didn't get a lot of sleep, but thank you to Game Time for allowing us to go to the game and have a blast at the Natty. Once again, that link down below in the comments section and in the description of this video. Let's get to a couple of the Niners assistants who are drawing interest across the NFL. First, some lesser-known assistants. Let's begin with Klint Kubiak here. He's really lived up to the hype during 2023, and Kyle Shanahan decided to put him in a place to have a critical role on this Niners offensive coaching staff after former Niners pass game coordinator Bobby Slowik joined DeMeco Ryans' staff as the new Houston Texans offensive coordinator. C.J. Stroud has gone on to have one of the best rookie seasons among any quarterback of all time. The Texans are in the playoffs. They're actually the first team in NFL history to have a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback win the division. And they've had this high-flying offense, and Bobby Slowik has been a part of that as the offensive play caller. He's under the Kyle Shanahan tree, and he's already landing head coaching interviews across the NFL. And now Klint Kubiak could kind of be the guy who follows in the footsteps of Bobby Slowik, who didn't call plays with San Francisco, is calling plays, obviously, with the Texans now. But people look at a coach like Kubiak, who's been learning from Shanahan. Shanahan's scheme has worked for several teams across the NFL, and it's taken the NFL by storm. Peter King with a pretty interesting write-up here and good intel on Kubiak, that the Shanahan-Kubiak tree has many branches, but this is the first year for Klint son of longtime coach Gary Kubiak, who has coached for Kyle Shanahan, and he's a part of why Brock Purdy has had such a good year. He's had a diverse run in the league for such a young coach, including play calling last year down the stretch for the Denver Broncos, where he was also the quarterback's coach after Nathaniel Hackett got fired, and he's very cerebral like his dad. And when you have a Niners team that is one of the best offenses in the NFL, they're averaging more than 30 points, you see player development, and most importantly, you see quarterback development. A lot of teams looking for an OC, looking for a creative play caller. They're looking for an offense that is innovative and creative. That's what Kyle Shanahan's offense is. They're also looking for an OC that can develop players, maximize players, and develop the quarterback. And that's what Kubiak has been able to do. So that is a name to monitor for teams looking for an OC, because he's never going to call plays for San Francisco. That is the job of Kyle Shanahan, and that's his specialty. So an elevation for him as far as professional development and job title would be going somewhere else to be an offensive coordinator. And then there's Brian Fleury, who is in his second season as San Francisco's tight end coach, but fifth under Kyle Shanahan with the franchise, having spent the 2020 and 2021 seasons as an offensive quality control coach and the 2019 season as a defensive quality control coach. So for Brian Fleury here, coaching the tight ends, offensive assistant, but also defensive coach too. So I like the vast experience that he has on his resume too. And in his first season with the tight ends in 2022, resulted in a career-high 11 touchdowns for George Kittle. This year, Kittle with his first 1,000-yard receiving season going back to 2019. And those 11 touchdowns, the third most in a single season by a tight end in Niners franchise history. And Kittle this year doesn't look to be washed, not even close. Still playing really, really good football. And his impact really clear. And that kind of coupled with that aforementioned versatility that I was talking about is why Fleury could be earning a job promotion with San Francisco, or maybe he could get a better job with another organization. Here's what Peter King had to say about Fleury. Unknown outside of the Niners, valued highly inside the building as the run game authority trusted by Kyle Shanahan. You get points with Shanahan for knowing the complete game. And Fleury has been a linebackers coach, director of football research, quality control coach, and assistant position coach in the NFL for years. And outside of football, outside of sports, you think about job candidates who have a really good resume. Oftentimes, it's a candidate who could do a bunch of different things, and Fleury has shown that he's been able to do that. Peter King also said Shanahan will not want to lose him. So if Kubiak were to leave, maybe Fleury could get the title that Mike McDaniel had a couple of years ago, offensive coordinator without calling plays, but a critical member of that offensive coaching staff. Maybe he could get pass game coordinator and continue his elevation. We round out the show with the latest on Steve Wilks. Saw this last night as we were walking into Energy Stadium here in Houston that the Chargers have requested to interview the Niners defensive coordinator. There's a lot of buzz behind the Chargers maybe hiring Jim Harbaugh, and I'm not sure if this would be a Rooney Rule and fulfilling that for Los Angeles to try to maybe bring Steve Wilks into the building to interview him. But unfortunately, you do have to kind of factor that in today's NFL search. But the Chargers do have some level of interest in Steve Wilks, and they're not going to be the only team that's interested in Wilks. Great defensive mind, well-respected by players, makes adjustments within the game. We've seen that all year. Impressive coaching resume, very good defensive scheme. Thought he got screwed over a little bit by the Cardinals only being there for 1 year, and the ownership group there, Michael Bidwell, it's kind of always been disastrous and dysfunctional. Last year when Steve Wilks stepped in for Matt Rule when he was fired mid-year, did really well as the Panthers' interim head coach, and I like to talk about this a lot here on the show. The real ones certainly have heard me talk about it, but when I talked to Jay Glazer at the Super Bowl last year, he said that people around the NFL thought that Steve Wilks hire was one of the best overall coaching hires in the offseason last year because of how well respected of a defensive mind he is. He played defensive back, he's coached defensive backs, and we've seen defensive backs develop under his watch, especially this year. Charvarius Ward, first Pro Bowl selection. Ambry Thomas has played really good ball. Diamador Lenore has gone from outside corner to the slot, and he's been able to take off and really play good football for this Niners defense, which is third in points per game allowed, eighth in yards per game allowed, third in opposing points per play, seventh in yards per play, and also second in touchdowns given up. So when you have success like this at the NFL level, a lot of teams are going to try to take your assistants. They're going to try to interview, and they're going to try to hire some of your front office members. That's the reality of being a successful team at the NFL level. Appreciate everybody for watching the show. I got a jet because we have to drive back up to Dallas and leave Houston after being here since Friday. Thanks to everybody for watching. Make sure you hit that sub button, and we'll catch you next time right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report.